Todd Dills again, your host for this edition of the Overdrive Radio podcast for December 16th, 2022, where we're going to drop into a conversation with Jared Flinn, operating partner of the BulkLoads.com load board specializing in bulk freight, which has grown quite considerably in recent years. When I first met Jared Flinn, the business was at the two guys in a basement stage, following Flynn's work trucking himself a little, then managing logistics for a big commodities outfit. He comes to the BulkLoads.com project with a passion to serve the small carrier and owner-operator, the 1 to 5 truck carrier that he notes in today's podcast is the board's primary customer. Flinn, too, is also the author of a brand new series of children's books, featuring the hauling exploits of one Semi-Sam, a freight-hauling tractor personified in the manner of, say, the Thomas the Train series many of you will be familiar with.
I would read these books and the kids just loved them. And I'm just an idea guy, but I kept telling my wife when they were little, I was like, man, some of these, I could come up with this.
And more importantly, he asked himself just why he didn't seem to see much in the way of kids' literature about trucking. There's some out there, and I've written about the occasional kids' book about the business that pops up over the many years here with Overdrive. Generally, he's right. There's not much. And in response to the 3 trucking adventures of Semi-Sam books out now, it's testament to that.
I didn't realize how much this would, how big of an impact this would have. But I've had so many people reach out and comment saying, there needs to be more books like this for kids to read.
Yeah. Since I had last spoken with Jared Flinn in the early days of BulkLoads.com, he's certainly been in expansion mode there.
We have kind of 3 entities now, and so we still BulkLoads is still kind of the mothership. There's 11 people with that. Smart Freight Funding, we spun that off in 2014, and that's a factoring arm that supports BulkLoads. And then this past year, we also started an insurance agency, Bulk Insurance Group, that we do all lines, but primarily commercial truck insurance for our owner operators. So cargo and liability, auto liability.
Gotcha.
And there's some other lines. We do work comp, but yeah, all these guys that the bread and butter are BulkLoads guys. These 1 to 5 truck operators, getting them affordable truck insurance.
I mean, how many loads are moving through the BulkLoads platform now?
We just look at that. I mean, I can tell you right now today, we average around 30,000 a day.
Posted, yeah.
Yep. So it's hard to judge because we don't keep track of ones that actually get booked and moved. We're 8,000 plus subscribers. So, there's some pretty good volume. We've done some metrics just on the, what we try to do, just to get generic numbers. And, we kind of track more in our industry since it's grain. A lot of people, it's all based on tonnage, so this year kind of based on the volume, we're already about $12 billion in commodities that have moved in 2022 alone. And what we do is we just take metrics on the volume plus kind of the average price of these commodities, corn, soybeans. So it's a pretty good number.
Is it primarily agricultural related stuff here, or are you doing? I'm trying to remember if you got into stuff like I did a run with a guy hauling PVC powder the other day, for instance. It's things like that, chemicals and liquid bulk too. Yeah, all that stuff.
All of that. So the bread and butter is going to be the grain and feed commodities. So raw corn, soybeans, wheat, milo, all your organic grains that get moved. And then all the byproducts and feed ingredients. So soybean meal, corn gluten meal, all your meals, pet food products. That's the bulk of it. But then just as equally, we do a lot of recyclables. So all your scrap metals, aluminums, we deal with a lot of guys hauling end dumps, pulling that stuff. But then all the bulk tanker stuff. So dry bulk, which would be like you just mentioned, but it could be like plastic pellets, resins, powders, and then all your liquid ones. Liquid probably more on non-hazmat stuff, so different fertilizers, liquid fertilizers. We deal with some petroleums. It's right. Yeah, but I guess the heart of it is kind of more on the ag side. Yeah. I'd say that's probably 70%, 30% would be industrial and aggregates. That's another thing too. Yeah, we also deal a lot with all your different coal, coke, aggregates, sand. There's a lot of guys that move that through our site.
On the other side of a break, for a quick word from Overdrive Radio's sponsor, House, we'll hear more from Flynn about BulkLoads.com, the Semi-Sam books, and much more. So keep tuned.
Skip the fuss that comes along with 911 and grab Howe's Diesel Lifeline. You don't have to waste time mixing it with additional diesel. Just pour it directly into your fuel filters. Save on those too, because with Lifeline, there's no need to change them. Without any harmful alcohol, Lifeline will de-ice frozen filters and re-liquefy gelled fuel fast. So don't bother wasting time and money waiting around for a tow. Switch to Lifeline and get yourself back on the road.
For more information, visit Howes, that's Howes, HowesProducts.com. And if you'd like to try Lifeline, dial our podcast message line at 615-852-8530, and we'll send you a prize pack with a bottle of Lifeline and the Howes Diesel Treat Preventive Fuel Treatment. Just leave us a message there with your name and address for shipping. That's 615-852-8530.
Jared Flinn. I am the operating partner at BulkLoads.com. We started in 2011. Myself and my business partner, Matt Ferdine. I'm based here. The company's based here in Southwest Missouri, Ozark. It's kind of our world headquarters. And but my business partner, Matt, he lives in California. My primary roles are more on the sales, marketing, and operations front. And then Matt is more on our technical development side, all the back end operations.
Right.
And again, kind of like every other business out there, started in a basement with the two of us, and again have grown to 45 employees as of today between all the other business segments.
Remind me, do you have like bulk trucking experience? How did you get into this?
Yep. So prior to BulkLoads, I had worked for a grain company, Bartlett Grain, in Kansas City. I started there in 2005, doing truck logistics. And it was interesting. At that time, I was hired just to kind of manage the logistics for one commodity group, the wheat group. And I saw just that there was a need to really centralize all of our logistics within the company. And within 6 months, kind of created my own division handling all the logistics for the company. But even prior to that, I can talk more on that, but prior to that, I drove a truck right out of college, and It wasn't an ag, but it was, I drove one hauling construction materials, and it was just within the state of Missouri and kind of more central. But that's where I really got my feet wet, just learning trucking and logistics, and just even dispatching. I had worked on the truck and then kind of moved inside where I was dispatching, lining up the loads. But
right.
It sounds, I don't know, mundane, but man, there's just, until you do it, man, you realize there's so much to it. And man, a lot of guys out there can speak, especially, man, when you're working the office dispatching, nobody's your friend. I mean, you're always getting in trouble by the drivers are mad at you because of the loads, and the end user, they're mad at you. Not always, but like I said, it's a tough role to be in. But that's why I think I learned that, like, how to make that better. And I think that's kind of what we've even done with BulkLoads, not to segue it into there, but like, how do we streamline these processes to make that relationship so much better between the shipper, the broker, and carrier? And there's so many different scenarios that you can go through there. But that's been my passion over the last really 18 years, is just, man, there's always got to be better ways to do this.
Yeah, before BulkLoads.com existed, you didn't see this kind of freight posted on digital load boards like this, right? Like it just didn't happen very much, did it?
No, and there was the bigger load boards out there, but they really focused on the big general freight, so the van, refrigerated freight, flatbed freight, where we just saw a need to really encompass and the bulk freight. And there's truckers that do both, and we understand that, and they use those other services. But it's interesting that a lot of our guys, it's very niche, that they're really just handling bulk commodity freight. They're pulling hopper bottoms or some kind of tankers, and a lot of it gravitates to our customer, which is we deal with a lot of farmers, grain elevators, co-ops, grain trading companies, and a lot of those guys kind of stay right in that space.
Are you guys technically a broker yourselves?
No, we're not. We're
Okay.
strictly third party. So, we're not a shipping company. We're not a brokerage. We're not a carrier.
Right.
Our job is to enhance the relationship. So,
Okay.
number one, we're trying to help that owner operator find that load, whether it's full-time business or part-time work. Maybe he just needs a reload out of somewhere. I hate to use the word backhaul. That's a negative one in our vocabulary, but really trying to help them find those loads to make a full round. But at the same time, you're helping that shipping company find that trucking company. So you may have a shipper out there that they have excess loads, or there's a new lane that they're trying to figure out trucks to run on. And then the broker that can serve as both roles. That broker can be representing the trucker or the shipper, depending on what side of the market that they're on.
I can't remember. Did you get the notion of a reload and a backhaul in one of the Semi-Sam books or not?
No, but actually,
No,
that's
you
a
did
great
not.
idea.
That was my little attempt there at a segue, I suppose. What the Trucking Adventures of Semi-Sam children's book series does, though, seriously, is translate some of the particulars of trucking into a form that should spark curiosity in young minds. There's plenty embedded trucking shorthand, either spelled out for just what it is or delivered with a wink to adults familiar with trucking culture.
And, you'll see, I don't know if you noticed, Mr. DOT is in there.
Yeah.
There's a waste station. Yeah. So, that's what I was just telling somebody yesterday. I was like, there's some adult humor in there, but I say adult humor is fun, adult, not like adult, like children can't, but like, there's some really interesting things in that. Yeah. And that's a lot of people, and you have to be more probably in the logistics to get the humor of that. But there's a lot of little underlying, stories in there or remarks that only people in our industry can relate to.
Back us up and tell us about these, what the genesis of this project was, and actually, just first give me the layout of what you've done here. Is it just the 2 books at this point?
There's 3 that are available
okay.
now on Amazon, and there's 2 in the process as well. It really started as so I have 3 kiddos. My daughter's 13 now, 10-year-old son and 8-year-old son.
Okay.
And when they were little, just like most of the listeners out there, we read books to them. My wife would typically pick some up from the library, or we get some as a birthday present or whatever.
Right.
Or she'd order some. And again, there's a lot of those iconic or classic stories. There's the Thomas the Train and Little Red Truck or Little Blue Truck, I think it is.
Yeah.
But like there's these ones, Good Night Moon, like you just these classic ones that we'd always read. And there was 2 things. I would read these books and the kids just loved them. And like, I'm just an idea guy, but I kept telling my wife when they were little, I was like, man, some of these, I could come up with this, I could do this. And just a little background too, one of my passions too, I love art. I was big in art in high school. Visual art. Yep.
Yeah.
Actually drawing and painting. There was a teacher, was a mentor of mine, really poured into me in high school. So I think that's why I developed a passion for that, but then even took art classes in college. I was in the ag school, but just art has always been just something I've loved to do. Even a therapy today.
Sure.
So I my wife, even over the years, she bought me different art supplies and drawing pads, all that. But I started just drawing these sketches, and I was like, well, man, what about if I could develop this character of this truck? And then I kept thinking, I was like, do I make like someone in the truck driving, or do I make the truck an actual character itself?
Yeah.
These are all the things that kind of went through the thought process. And I guess to simplify it, I was like, man, I'm going to actually make, the truck character, his own person.
Yep.
And then, yeah, I just kind of kept like we talked earlier, I kept thinking about like, what are these stories that you hear over the years in trucking that these guys face, good or bad, and what do they do? So I just kind of started thinking of those storylines and how do we put that together? Again, another passion besides trucking is agriculture. So I wanted an ag tie to it. Now, a lot of these stories, there's some of these even new ones that don't have as much to do with agriculture, but just trucking in general. But I wanted that to be important as well. To children to listen to. So yeah, that was really the foundation. So I started putting the sketches together. I started, kind of thinking of the idea, the storyline. I started doing research just on like what makes a good story. You got to have a hero, you got to have a guide, you got to have people that work alongside there. There's got to be some kind of obstacle that person faces or challenge, and then how does he overcome that challenge? Like it's the same. If you look at every story, it's the same scenario. So I said, okay, how can I put that together? So that's what kind of led to the characters that I chose. You'll see in the story again, only logistics professionals would probably get it, but like, Semi Sam, he has a guide, which is Davey Dispatcher, his dispatcher. He's the one that's helping him, finding his loads for him, letting him know what's going on, being his guide to help him out. But that's where it kind of came up with. So like I started making these sketches. I kind of started thinking of these storylines. But again, I'm not a digital artist, and I'm not an author. So like, I was like, how do I get this to the next level? And that's where I kind of found like a ghostwriter to help me like really put together the actual script to make it more appealing. Because if it was me, there'd be a lot of grammatical errors and probably inconsistencies. And then I found a digital artist to say, I sent them all the sketches saying, hey, here's what I want you to do. And then they kind of put it all together. So I always want to be very clear on that. Like I didn't actually write every sentence of the book. I had someone help me along the way. I want to give credit where credit is due on that.
And these are not freehand. These are not necessarily freehand drawings and paintings. They are digitally created images.
Yep. I had the initial ones, and like, I had, I probably created 30, 40 plus sketches. I still have. Actually, I was sharing some with some friends. Actually, I got a notepad right here. I was sharing them. But no, I actually had somebody actually put the color to it and the characters and all that. But yeah, that's where it really came. But here's the interesting thing, and like there's always got to be like, even telling you this, there's a story behind it all. But like I started doing this 4 years ago, I think it was almost 5 years ago. And just like everything else, dude, like, people, you start doing this and like, man, what am I doing this for? Like, who's going to care? Who's going to have interest in this? Like, am I doing this to please myself? Am I doing this, to try and make money off of it? And are people going to make fun of me? I mean, I'm just being very candid with you. Like, I'm not like, this isn't, my goal in life wasn't to create a kid's book, but like the more and more I thought about it, it's like, man, if I don't do this, I'm going to have regrets. I'm going to, who cares what people say if they think I'm silly or if they think it's stupid? I mean, that's for them to judge, but I'm going to push it out there and see. So, it was really, a couple years ago, I started looking at it again, but then this last year, I found a person to really help me on the back end to say, okay, let's look at where we can get, this done, like self-published, how we can implement it and get it on Amazon. And Ashley's her name, but she really helped me get it to where we could really get it out there and market it. But I say all that too, like, and again, I don't want, like, I think too many of us, like, we sit there and like, man, is this a bad idea? Can I do this? What are people going to think? And I don't know. It's been rewarding to see like the positive aspects of it, to see that people actually love it. And again, it wasn't to make, if there's some financial reward, so be it. Like I said, I haven't collected a dollar yet, but that's not the importance of it. It's like, it's really to get it out there and see how people resonate. And that's been the cool thing. It's almost been, I don't want to call it a movement, but I didn't realize how much this would, how big of an impact this would have. But I've had so many people reach out and comment saying like, there needs to be more books like this for kids to read, talk, and everybody knows a trucker, and almost everybody has a family member that was a trucker at some time, or a truck driver. And there's a little bit of a lost, there's these heroes out there that's kind of been lost. And there's still a lot of drivers today, but like, when you talk to people, it's like, man, my dad was a trucker, my uncle was a trucker, my grandpa was a trucker,
Yeah.
but like there's this feeling that people get when they read this and being like, man, these people need to be recognized more. And there's, this isn't.
For the whole trucking business is kind of like for people that live their lives around their local communities, it's like out of sight, out of mind, even for people that are in their own families. But this kind of, things like this, I think, just kind of put the reality of everything back in people's minds. And in this case, at a very young age.
And then the agriculture part of it, like really delivering, the first series was delivering a tractor. He's delivering a tree. He's helping with grain harvest.
Yeah.
The grain harvest was one that, man, every year you hear these stories of, a farmer that either dies in an accident or passes away, has a heart attack, and these other farmers step in and help him. And it's just like, it's always, you get emotional reading, it tear-eyed, and like, why not do a book about that where actually Semi-Sam like does the same thing? There's a guy that's harvesting his grain or helping this trucker, and dude, he steps in. So that was the underlying premise of that book, to have that kind of that back and tie. So like, it's just like, you don't realize how much it touches people. Like they see, it's not just a book. I mean, it's not just a book and a story. Like there's a lot more to it, and it draws so much emotion. I guess that was always the goal. Like, it wasn't like, hey, I'm not just going to do this to put some pictures that kids are going to think are cool. But man, there's a story that can be told over and over and over.
The first two books Jared mentioned in what you just heard there. Semi-Sam helps with the harvest, and quite simply, Semi-Sam delivers a tractor, in which the very helpful aforementioned Officer Dot, spelled D-O-T of course, stops Sam and warns him of attempting to traverse a particular mountain pass. But the third book,
Semi-Sam delivers a tree to the White House. It's just interesting as we're doing this today, but like there was an article just this past week of a truck line, I think out of North or South Carolina, that delivered the tree to the Capitol Christmas tree. So again, this one, Semi-Sam delivers it to the White House, not the Capitol, not to confuse. But that was the thought pattern with that. It's like, hey, and every year the trucker gets selected to go or a trucking company. So it's like, why not like put this in a story format for kids to see? And then, as kids get older, like, oh man, I remember,
it's a real thing. It happens.
It's a real thing. So all these things are a real deal, and I don't want to give a spoiler alert. Like, I have one where Semi-Sam goes to the truck show. And there's some hurdles that he faces along the way. There's one, Semi-Sam meets an electric truck, and there's some issues with that. A lot of people, the electric truck gets picked on. He's different. He's not a diesel. So, but you see how cool, like there's so much you can do with this, and some real life meaning to our industry. So I don't know. Hopefully, I don't want to give those away yet.
That's cool though. But those are coming next, I guess, right? Yeah.
Those are in the pipeline, and it's been funny as I've been sharing these. I've been getting people give me a lot more ideas. I've been jotting down too. So it's been pretty cool.
Still looking for a Christmas gift for that young family in your life? Here's where you'll find Flynn's Semi-Sam series.
Really two spots. We initially had them on Lulu.com.
Lulu is that sort of self-publishing platform, right? Yeah.
Self-publishing platform, And then now we got them on Amazon. But the easiest way, and dude, everybody has an Amazon account. But if you go to Amazon and you can search my name, Jared R. Flinn, or just search Semi-Sam Trucking, and you'll see all three books that pop up there. Yep.
Cool. So very easy to find.
I also want to say this, Todd, too. And again, this is, and I mean this all sincerity, dude. If somebody's out there listening or can't afford that, man, dude, it's more of getting this in the hands of people that want to read it. I'm happy to drop a copy in the mail. So, I mean, if they want to reach out to me, I'd be honored to mail them a gift free of charge.
Find Jared Flinn through his Facebook profile or that of the BulkLoads business, or via the BulkLoads.com website. Speaking of which, I asked Flinn to speak to the current market for bulk freight movement, and particularly for the agricultural-related bulk freight that many of the owner-operators and other carriers utilizing the BulkLoads board specialize in.
The bulk trucking is always a little siloed compared to the rest of the truck market. Man, we've had a great year. I mean, I say great. We, as in the industry's had a great year. Kind Commodity prices are relatively high, which creates, more planting, more harvesting, more truck movement. We've had issues with the barge market, waterways, which has put more pressure on trucking, so created a lot more demand. This with the railroads. I don't need to go into details on that, but that's created more opportunities for trucks as well. There's been a lot more demand in our industry. So really still demand staying pretty good compared to the rest. We're starting to see, a little bit of a migration, and it can go both ways, but we're seeing a lot more entrance into the bulk space just because there's still a strong demand. Guys exiting maybe on the van flatbed side and getting into it. And we're forecasting still a strong 2023. Again, it's interesting. It's kind of you can look at it as, typically, not always, but when there's uncertainty in the market, or say inflation, commodity prices go high, well, that usually helps the bulk trucking because more demand and all that. So where the other markets, it's a negative, but it could be in a way positive. But again, it has to correct itself, otherwise it can be negative. So it's been a great. It's really been a great year for us. Really, the past couple of years have been strong, and I think we'll see a strong 2023. I say this, I don't want to flood the market or hurt him, but I think there's good opportunity right now. So, man, if you're out there listening and man, it's slow, or man, looking for some other opportunities, man, give us a call. We're not trying to just sell you a membership, but we can show you what's available and kind of the money to be made. And again, our industry, depends on where you're located, but man, especially if you're in the Midwest here, I mean, that's our bread and butter.
And as Flynn detailed in part at the top, the growth in services that BulkLoads.com offers has been geared to delivering tools to the carriers who utilize the service, including now a TMS platform that is specific to the bulk niche. We wrote about a few relatively new such software platforms geared to help owner-operators and small fleets manage the back office and communications from the road, all the way down to accounting functionality in many cases. One of those was the car haul-focused carrier TMS of Ship.Cars that regular listeners heard about several weeks ago via my talk with Slava Sobecki of Taurus Auto Group. BulkLoads is doing something quite similar, as you'll hear.
But our job really, and hopefully we talk more about this, is the evolution of our company has really changed in 12 years, where we're really not just a load board anymore, but we're handling every piece of that. We call it the load life cycle, from not just finding that truck, but getting, the insurance to the appropriate parties, to getting the documentation to the trucker, to tracking the truck, to the delivery piece, to the bill of ladings getting back, all the way to the payment piece, and then even the data behind all that. So like, if you think of every little aspect, we are now touching every piece of that cycle.
And that's through that affiliated, the factoring company that you launched, and the insurance agency. But also, it just sounds like you've probably built in some functionality into the BulkLoads application to where you can do electronic proofs of delivery and things like that.
Yep, we call it Bulk TMS, so Bulk Transportation Management Solution, but that's another enhanced product or service that we offer that encompasses more of those detailed management. So again, we do have customers that just use the load posting aspect, but now we have a whole new evolution of customers that are using the full package. And this time, it's if you can go to one spot to service everything you need and make, and have these systems talking to each other, it's just so much easier, so much more efficiently, and you can be so much more productive as a logistics professional.
You've got this very specific freight niche that also has its own set of expectations that are met in part by this niche focused TMS that you guys are doing. What about it is specific to the bulk niche?
It's interesting. A lot of these TMS companies, and there's a lot of them today, but again, they focus on the general freight. They're focusing on the van, reefer, flatbed. We built a system solely focused on bulk loads. I don't want to give away the secret sauce, but most freight in bulk, it's paid on tonnage, bushels. It's not paid on flat rates. There are some fuel surcharges, but typically it's kind of built in. We've developed functionality that focuses strictly on that. Not and there's many more than besides the pricing, but it's easier for us because I mean I worked in this industry for years, but we built it out specifically for guys that are dealing with bulk trucking.
Is there accounting functionality within it too, I guess?
Yeah, again, full start to finish. Like we have an invoicing piece of it, a tracking piece. So yeah, it's again, we try to every piece that professional, whether it's the trucker, broker, shipper. I mean, we've tried to encompass that in there, so they're not having to use. And we do have APIs that do plug into QuickBooks and some of these other ones, but we also have the same functionality that we can give to that customer without having to use a QuickBooks.
A big thanks to Jared Flinn for his time. You can find him via the website of the BulkLoads board. That's BulkLoads.com. And you can find links to the Amazon pages for his trucking adventures of Semi Sam children's book series in the show notes and in the post that houses this podcast for December 16th, 2022 at overdriveonline.com/overdrive-radio. In the podcast post, too, you can see a few of those early sketches of Semi Sam that Flynn mentioned. Always nice to see a piece of work in progress, of course. Here's a big thanks to you for listening. Overdrive Radio is a production of Overdrive, the voice of the American trucker. It's edited and produced by me, Todd Dills, with the acoustic guitar and other support of trucker songwriter and Overdrive contributor Long Haul Paul Marhofer. The theme is Legend of the Snake Man by Marhofer, featuring the guitar work of Travis the Snake Man himself, Wemmick. Terry Two Socks Richardson on bass, keys by Tishomingo Jim Whitehead, and on drums, Mr. Andrew Marshall. The podcast is backed up further by Overdrive's own news editor Matt Cole, social media coordinator Holly Young, executive editor Alex Lockheed, and intrepid video editors Lawson Rudisell and Andrew Glenn. See you next time.